as a child, you didn't just because you thought of something or believed doesn't necessarily make it true. You could think you're a wizard, a ninja, a pirate,
You
but
could
does
think you're
that?
straight. You could think you're cis. You could think you're a boy when you were born as a male. I mean, I could argue that the straights and the cis people are indoctrinating people far more than trans people are. Alrighty. Hello, how are you?
Doing good, Alec. I'm doing good. Actually, thank you very much for being very flexible, brother. I apologize again for all the uh, reschedules. I'm not
No,
trying to duck you at
no,
all.
please,
I've just
please. I actually appreciate you taking me up on my offer. I've only had one other person do that before.
oh,
So,
all right.
pleasure is all mine. I appreciate you being here. So can you give your preferred name for the chat if you don't mind?
Paco's fine, brother.
Paco, excellent. Well, welcome, Paco.
Mhm.
As I recall, and I don't recall very much, we were talking on Twitter about stuff, and I don't know what stuff. It was trans stuff. He said maybe religious stuff. So, you wanna? Did you want to kind of open and refresh my
Yeah,
memory on what
sure.
it was?
Yeah, brother. If I remember correctly, we're discussing. We weren't really debating trans, like whether or not trans will exist, but whether or not I think there's a push in the trans community, not like the general trans community, but a certain section pushing grooming on children. And I think the religion one kind of got in a weird, like, how do you say, space, because I think you might have thought I might have been a fundamental Christian, because I did say America itself. I made the how do you say, the statement that America was founded on Christian Protestant values, and then you're like, oh, well, but I think you said something along the lines like, oh, I think you thought I was a Christian fundamentalist, and I was like, no, I'm actually an atheist, which I think from there was like, oh, that's kind of interesting.
Ah, I do remember that. Yeah, you were the
Yeah.
atheist saying that America was founded on Christian fundamentalist values. I remember that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember now we got into a little bit of like, you did say that trans people exist and are valid and whatever.
Yeah.
It seems like your main contention is with trans children. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that
Okay,
sounds
can you
about right. Not trans children within itself, but I think the push to possibly make children trans, if that makes sense.
can you explain what you mean by make children trans?
Yeah, no problem, Alec. Thank you. I think recently, within, not saying the trans community itself or LGBT plus community itself is trying to groom children itself, but I feel within the last 5 years, there's been this strange push to kind of try to indoctrinate children, hence the term grooming children into the trans community, trying to push transgender identity onto children nowadays, which has been backed up with I think there's some surveys or studies saying that I think the people coming out, children in general, people under 20, have been coming out. I think 20% or anywhere from 10 to 15, 20% are identifying as trans, as opposed to back in the day, it was think maybe 5 to 10% for centuries. All of a sudden, within the last 10 years, there's been a giant explosion on people identifying as trans, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. I could make the same argument about left-handed people if I were to live in about 1920. There was a sharp decline in the number of people who identified as left-handed from the 1800s up to 1900 because it was
Mhm.
deemed, I guess, inappropriate or whatever. And then starting from about 19, it looks like a little bit before 1910, according to this chart, if you want to look at the stream,
Yeah,
going all the way
sure.
up until about 1960, you see this sudden increase from about 3% up to 12%. Did we indoctrinate children to become left-handed?
No, not at all. But again, being a left-handed person myself, I am very familiar with, the percentages of left-handed people, and
Ah, so then you know that
yeah,
if you had lived back in about 1906 or whatever, you would have been told that what you're doing is wrong and bad, and you would have been probably beat until you used your right hand.
actually, funny enough about that, it's not even that far along. Even in my childhood, I'm only slightly above 30, but I come from a Mexican household. Even when I was a teenager and child, being left-handed was still seen as bad. In Asia as well, when I went to travel in China, left-handedism was not seen as normal. It's seen as abnormal. But yes, I did get my ass beaten for being a left-handed person.
Okay, well then you know all too well. Then, when you and I'm curious, can you tell me a little bit about how that kind of affected the way you use your hands, if you don't mind?
Oh no, I'm still a left-handed person.
Right,
still
but back
a
then,
lefty.
so
Oh,
back
back then, I mean, I did get my ass beat a little bit by my mom. My father stood up for me though. He's like, yeah, he's a left-handed person. He's not gonna be able to, he can't use his right like as like most people can. And my dad's got me a left-handed glove and whatever, and it all worked out.
do you understand that that would have forced a lot of people to into either using forcing themselves into using the right hand or hiding the fact that they were left-handed altogether?
In some places, yes, I understand that. Like I said, my wife is also she's ambidextrous because when she grew up in China, in communist China, in her age is even more strict. They forced her to become right-handed, so she's ambidextrous. She can both write with her left and right hand because of the forcing.
Right. So my point is, why can I not say the same about trans people and trans children and how many are coming out right now?
Well,
Maybe there was a stigma against it, and now we're seeing the stigma being lifted, and people aren't afraid anymore to come out.
and like I said, Alec, I understand trans will exist. I'm not saying they don't exist, and people don't feel trans,
Well, right,
but
but we're
but
talking about. You said we're kind of pulling people and children specifically into this ideology, quote unquote.
yeah, there's
So,
no like, like with the argument with the left-handed people, right?
mhm.
But which makes sense. Like people are naturally born one way, and I understand that. Again, I have nothing against that. But there's no how do you say? There's no pro-left agenda, right? I'm not going to people and saying
Well,
use
I,
your
I
left
could
hand.
easily argue there is. We have left-handed things in stores now. We have lefty representation in media. They're called southpaws in baseball. Why could I not argue that like southpaws are being deviant somehow? That it shouldn't be allowed. They're cheating because it makes it harder to hit the ball. Like there's all kinds of arguments I could make.
And again, I will go over this because again, being a left-handed person, I've dealt with this whole world. Southpaw, it can be an advantage and disadvantage on the sport depending. Like I love boxing. I've done boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai,
Mhm.
and as a southpaw person, I did have kind of a weird advantage on some people not used to fighting left-handed people. But at the end of the day, if anyone wanted to fight a left-handed person, or use the advantage. People can train to be a southpaw. Some right-handed fighters have converted from being right-handed to southpaw or been switch hitters. Have you never heard the term switch
Sure,
hitter?
but
That's
I could make an argument that if you're naturally left-handed, that's going to make being a southpaw far easier.
that is true. That is very true.
Right.
But again, at the same time, no one's there. There's no pro. Again, there's some sports do left-handed things, but majority of things are not built for left. Again, being a man who's having to use for my career, various career fields, working with my first career field, I was a mechanic, and a lot of tools are not not at all built for left-handed people at all, and
Well,
some of them will actually put me in danger if you've never if you look into it. There's a lot of things that will actually kill left-handed people. Hence, left-handed people actually live on average less time than right-handed people because of industrial accidents.
sure, and I think that we have a lot of work still to do, even with left-handed people. But my point is, you see products being made specifically for left-handed people that you can buy. You see in schools they're not denigrating children anymore for being left-handed. They're allowing them to use their left hands to write. I mean, don't you consider that kind of indoctrination? Saying, "Oh, we're going to encourage you to use whatever hand you feel comfortable using." Like, why
Not
don't they
really
teach the right
indoctrination.
hand?
Not really, Alec, because again, like I was saying earlier, just letting someone be naturally be them is all right. Like no
Hmm.
one's pushing a left-handed. Like, hey, all of a sudden a child picks up something with the left hand accidentally. You are now
So
left-handed.
if a child comes to a teacher and says, hey, I think I might be gay, or hey, I think I might be trans, is that okay? Is that being themselves, or
Actually, with that, yeah. If they think, I mean, I don't know how old the child is. Again, how
does it
old is the
matter?
child? It actually does, because Alec, I mean, I don't know
Mhm.
how old you were ever thought like when you were a kid. You ever thought you were like a ninja, a wizard, or a fucking? I'm sorry for cussing. Is cussing all right? A
It's
little
fine. I
bit.
don't care. Cussing's fine.
I'm saying I'm just trying to respect your stream, brother. I'm
I
you know
appreciate that. Thank you.
not trying to demonetize again. Like, and even though we don't see eye to eye and we come from different, I don't want to
You did
cause
ask me
undue.
beforehand any ground rules. I did not say no cussing. You are
Oh,
perfectly fine, my friend.
got you, brother. So, like I said, okay, going back to that, as a child, you didn't just because you thought of something or believed doesn't necessarily make it true. You could think you're a wizard, a ninja, a pirate,
You
but
could
does
think you're
that?
straight. You could think you're cis. You could think you're a boy when you were born as a male. I mean, I could argue that the straights and the cis people are indoctrinating people far more than trans people are. I mean, just look
But
at all the
with
Disney movies. That I consider that straight indoctrination of anything.
but the question with cis or straight, as like I know animals also practice homosexuality, and not all animals kind of follow the same method as humans, but majority animals do procreate with male female. Hence, I think hence biological natural. Sorry about that. I'm having a beer right now.
It's okay.
Uh, that it's natural for biologically, life to follow the same pattern. Say male, female to reproduce. I mean, would that be far fetched to believe that? They're not really indoctrination. If not, we're just following our genetic code to reproduce.
Do you think it's natural for a dog to hump somebody's leg?
That's actually a very good question, brother. I mean, dogs. Like I have a dog. I've had several dogs.
I think we can both
They'll.
agree that it certainly would not result in reproduction.
It would not sort of reproduction. Yeah, I agree with that. But
Right.
they hump other objects. Like
Right.
I mean, just
Other
because
boy
someone
dogs,
asked.
if they're boys.
Other boy dogs. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Cats. I've seen my dog hump a cat.
Right.
But but majority of
That's
animals,
interspecies,
human.
so you want to talk natural.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think that's a
Interspecies,
bad
but
place to go in that case.
yeah. Mm.
So
But that
I
doesn't really
guess I'm trying to figure out what exactly you're getting at with the whole like nature thing.
interesting. I mean, I'm just saying, like, I don't see how cis or straight for most people to be cis or straight is indoctrination, since most people are gonna reproduce with humans. I mean, vast majority of human history, male and females are reproducing. Not saying they get in marriages like following the Christian marriage of one man, one wife, and people have many wives and vice versa. You know what I'm saying? But for the most
If
part,
Go ahead.
I mean, trans really identity hasn't really been a thing. It's been kind of a niche thing in some cultures where some people identify as male or female, but for the vast majority of history, men were usually men and women were women.
That's a bit ahistorical. All throughout history, there's been documented evidence of people changing their gender identity, people, presenting as, something that was traditionally at the time considered of the opposite sex. That the proper way for the opposite sex to present. And now I don't know the exact history of everything. I'm sure many of them were ridiculed for it. But I know there's a really good example, and I can't think of it right now. It was somebody who was born a male, and they ended up becoming like I think they were like royalty, but they wanted to be known
Mhm.
as like the queen or something. I can't
I
remember
think
exactly,
I
but
think I think I know what you're talking about. I don't know if I think it might have been
Egyptian times, yeah,
there was one Egyptian. I think there was a Chinese person as well that
yeah.
was an emperor and wanted to be considered empress. If I remember correctly, ended up becoming a eunuch, but that was more or less seen as rare or kind of odd outside, the norm.
Well, sure, but it was there, so like I think it's a little ahistorical to say it wasn't.
I'm not saying they didn't exist in time. I'm saying, but for the majority of history, though, it really wasn't really a thing. I mean, not saying trans people have not existed, but it's for the vast majority of history, it's been very, very rare. If
I
that,
think it's fair to say that it is more rare to be trans than it is to be many other identities, such as homosexual. I think that is true.
yeah,
If if I'm understanding it correctly, that doesn't mean that that doesn't mean that it's wrong. That doesn't mean that it hasn't happened. And that
and
I think what the internet has done for us, it has connected people. So people who were trans and always understood themselves to be trans, even though they don't have a word for it, like ever since they were
yeah,
2, 3, 4 years old, maybe they don't have a word for it. They just know that like, okay, I was born as a boy, but like I feel like a girl. I want to be a girl. I am a girl. Like I understand myself to be a girl, or vice
and,
versa. And they didn't
and I
have a
agree with
word for it, but then they found through the internet there were other people like them, and so they started connecting, and they found out, wow, whereas before, and I'm almost done, sorry, whereas
no, no, no,
before
go ahead.
the internet you were isolated and disconnected, and you just thought you were an abomination of God, and so you held it in your entire life, or you know took the sewer slide, so to speak. So
Got you.
the internet has kind of revolutionized our communication and brought people together.
And I agree, Gunter. The internet has made people easier to find communities where they can be included. People hobbyists, like the hobbyist of any the hobby. How do you explain? How do you say? Let me find the word. I'm sorry.
You're
Like
fine.
if hobby communities exploded, people with niche interests, have found communities because of the internet, and it's great and all that. And then, like I said, I never deny that trans people existed in history, but I just never said it was really normalized, if that makes sense, through anywhere really. Well, it was more seen as kind of a rarity through most
Yeah.
of history, and even homos and again, even other cultures, they've accepted, yeah, okay, these trans people exist and they exist. Some places even celebrated their existence. I think
Hmm?
Pacific Islanders had this trans people that they celebrated, and I'm not saying again, I'm never saying it's bad. I'm
I
not
don't think you're
not
saying that.
Yeah, I don't think trans people are bad. I have trans friends. I have gay friends. Gay people actually accepted, like the homosexual. How we say define the homosexual man and women have been more common than trans even through history. Even in China, they weren't even Chinese people. Again, I know a lot about Chinese history. My wife and living there, I've never been really seen as bad. Just a little bit odd, but they're fine. There was no how do you say Christian theology to call them evil or shun them, if that makes sense.
Who,
Because they're
trans or gay people? Sorry.
both actually.
Both. Okay, so just queer people in general then.
Yeah, queer people in general. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we agree that trans
Yeah.
people obviously exist, they're valid, whatever. It
Yeah.
seems though that again, once again, I want to wrap it back around to like the main contention, and that seems
Yeah.
to be that you find it problematic that so many kids are coming out as trans. It seems like, is that right?
In a way, yeah, because I feel like I don't know why there is such a weird push for parents and certain parents, not saying all parents, but certain parents or schools or teachers that push kids being trans or outing kids as trans, or celebrating kids that are not even, 1 to 4 years old. My child identifies trans, like they're 1 to 4 years old. They don't know anything. Like
Oh no,
just
I,
because.
I I think you're wrong there. We have evidence that shows that you understand not maybe not your own gender, but the differences between uh, masculine and feminine genders and what is represented by each by the time you're 1.5 to 2 years old. By the time you're 4 and no later than 4, it is found that you understand your own gender identity. For most people, the vast majority of people, that will align with the sex that you were assigned at birth. But for some people, it does not, and I think that's fine. And in an ideal world, I think that that should be acceptable. I think that should be, allowed to progress naturally, like so many families have done before. It leads to better health outcomes. It leads to better to more happiness later in life. Like there's no downsides to it.
Uh, again, I agree if someone genuinely, sincerely. I'm not saying people wouldn't sincerely know they're trans within 4, but I feel like there's a certain weird kind of sociological push to make these children like there was I think a TikTok video. Sorry, I should save my receipts of this lady saying that her son should she's thinking her son is trans because he likes dolls, but that just because the kid likes dolls doesn't mean he's trans. One of my younger brothers. Sorry about that. Let me just finish.
No,
Uh,
please.
he wanted a doll for Christmas. We made fun of him. Like when I remember when I was a kid, I was like maybe 3 or 4 years old. I told him, "Oh, dolls are for girls." He wanted a doll. He just wanted a doll. But he said, "I'm not a girl. I just want a doll." Or he just liked dolls, and he grew out of it. He didn't like dolls anymore. But for some reason, he just really wanted a doll. But now he's grown up. He's not trans at all. Not Doesn't identify anywhere as trans or female. He just at that point in life really, for some reason, like dolls.
Right. I'll cede to you, right, that sometimes there are just boys who like girl things. That is
Yeah.
certainly a thing. Um, there are girls who like boy things. There are boys and girls who
Yeah.
like both, and they end up being cis, the gender they
Mhm.
identify as at birth. Some people associate those things with being the opposite gender or being between the genders.
Mhm.
Some people internalize. Everybody like I said, everybody learns what gender is by the time
Mhm.
they're like 1.5 to 2 years old,
Yeah.
and they have to from there they understand that they have to develop a gender identity because everyone else has one, and that's how the
Mhm.
human brain works. We have to be included, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
the way that that develops is highly dependent on like just internal preference. There's really not an exact mechanism that's known for why or how it happens. It just does. You
Yeah.
develop a preference. It's like whether you prefer pizza or burgers, almost. Like it's just
No, and I agree.
you don't
People
pick
have
which one your
preferences.
favorite is.
No, no, no. People have preferences.
Right.
I fully understand that, and I never blame people for having preferences. But I think there again. I'm not saying this is what happens normally, but again, I'm not saying I'm not trying to disparage anonymity. I'm not trying to disparage trans children. I just have a problem with people who, for some reason, see it as trendy, like it's a costume, like made it's like
Trans
some
trenders.
Yeah, transgenders. Thank you. I was looking for that term. I forgot what it was, and
Mhm.
I mean, I should be googling it. But yes, transgenders, and I'm like, why? Like, if people, and let me just finish right quick. Sorry. And I get people are trans. People want to be trans or try or experiment. It's fine. But to make it into a trend, to make someone's identity or sexuality a friggin' trend is, I don't know if anyone sees it as problematic.
Well, let's walk through that. Let's say that
Yeah.
somebody, when they're, they understand themselves to be male, they were born male at birth, they understand themselves to be a boy, and then they turn 10,
Yeah.
and suddenly they're like, well, I see some other trans people around me. I hear all these things on the internet. Now I'm not sure. I'm questioning
Mhm.
these things about myself. Maybe I want to try living as a girl for a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, Walk me through what's wrong with that.
It just really depends, brother. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with experimentation
Mhm.
at all, even if it's just mild experimentation. But when you start getting to when start things start building up beyond that to where people start taking hormone therapies, drugs, start taking irreversible surgeries. Like, I don't know if that's where I'm starting to get. At first, okay, it's kind of weird, but all right. But then when people are putting for surgeries, irreversible surgeries to children that are not very, they're developed, they don't know what they want in life, and again, people are still trying to experiment, find their way. I don't see why they should push, life altering surgeries that are not reversible, or if they are somewhat reversible, they're still scarred for life. You know what I'm saying, Alec?
Of course. And I will say that there are people who get surgeries who end up regretting
Yeah.
it. That those are not non-existent, and I'm not going to sit here
Mhm.
and pretend like they're non-existent.
Mhm.
I will tell you that the rates are extraordinarily low, and that surgery tends, especially for bottom surgery, that doesn't happen until you're 18,
Mhm.
at least 18, and usually even after that. As far as top surgery for like trans men,
Mhm.
that can happen. I've heard of that happening as young as 14. That's an
Mhm.
extreme circumstance. I
Yeah.
typically that happens also when you're an adult. I think that it
Mhm.
only really happens at 14 if your dysphoria is severe enough and a team of
Mhm.
doctors, and I want to stress this, a team of doctors decides that
Mhm.
the benefits of the surgery outweigh the downsides of you know, keeping the breast tissue and dealing with that dysphoria, because you have to look at yourself in the mirror every day. And if you understand yourself at 14 years old, like I'm a man, and you're developing breasts, that's going to. I mean, imagine a boy, right, developing breasts, like somebody who is born male. And they turn 14 and they see all their friends around them getting, pecs, whatever. They're getting tall, they're getting muscular.
Mhm.
And this
Mhm.
kid's still soft and he's now developing breast tissue, and this is something that
Mhm.
happens, by the way. Don't you
Mhm.
think that that would lead to some self-image issues?
I agree there'd be self-image issues for people who might think they're again at 14, 15. Again, we're still not fully developed. People, switch identities all the time, and while I agree some people might be facing some stress or self-esteem issues, at the same time, again, some of those kids flip-flop on the surgery, and I don't think at 14 or 15 one should be cutting off their breasts. Like the common argument, I think you've heard this one before, is like, well, I identify as an amputee, can I cut off a healthy limb just because I identify as someone without, with only three limbs? It's
That's
just,
funny. That actually came up in my last debate, and I wish I had had a more prepared answer. But now I'm going to use the opportunity to practice on you, if you don't mind.
yeah, no, go for it, brother.
As far as the amputee thing goes, first of all, I want to stress that really does not happen. Does it? Yeah, but like it's a handful of people. You could probably count on like 10 fingers and toes how many people are actually like trans, whatever you would call it, trans uh, uh, amputee, whatever.
Mhm.
That doesn't happen. Now, let's take the hypothetical seriously, though, and let's say that that were the case. So let's say that you walk in on your friend and he's saying, "Man, I need to cut off my arm. I need
Mhm.
to. I
Yeah.
can't stand it. I hate it. I look at it. It just sucks. I hate it. I need to cut off my arm." And your response obviously is going to be something to the effect of, "That's crazy. You're talking crazy. Just relax." He's like, "You don't understand. I felt this way for years and years." And he's like got scars on his arms, and he's starting to lose like sensation in his fingers, and you decide, okay, well, maybe let's get him into a hospital, right? Let's have some
Mhm.
people check him out. And so he goes into a hospital. They treat him with psych meds. They go through all these things with him, all these tests, all these whatever. And he's continuing to like grab whatever he can get his hands on and just work away at this arm because he just can't stand it. constantly. He's getting infections. He's lost all sensation and feeling and ability to use his fingers in that arm. Finally, at some point, the doctor's going to be like, man, this kid just does not want his arm. If we don't get it off, he's just going to keep doing this. At some point, the doctor's going to say his life would be better without the arm. I think he's serious, and they'll lop it off. And
And I
honestly,
agree, that's a real possibility if someone's. But the first
mhm,
point is why in the first place we got to treat. Why does he want to cut the arm off in the first place?
we can't
Why
say.
would and the thing that there's a reason. There has to be a reason why he's trying to lop that arm
Right,
off.
and we can try to find the reason, but if we can't fix it and his life is going to be improved by getting it off, I say get it off.
To the extreme, yeah, but again, that's an extreme. You're not gonna cut it off the first time he attempts to chop off his arm.
No, but
Can we
that's
agree
the
with that?
beauty of hormone blockers, right?
Mhm.
For when we're talking about trans people. With your arm, I agree. You wouldn't want to do that right away. You'd want to,
But,
you'd want to exhaust other options first. But the beauty of
but
being trans, first of all, is that you're not lopping off a limb, right? Second of all, there's hormone blockers, so you actually get to kind of experiment with social transitioning first. You get to go until you're about 16, I believe, and then finally they're like, okay, well, are you still feeling this way? And you can say yes or no. If you say yes, that's great. We'll start the hormone therapy. You'll develop, if you're trans female, you'll develop breast tissue. You'll transition into a beautiful woman, right? And then if you're trans female to male, they'll say, okay, let's start you on testosterone. Maybe we'll schedule some surgery for when you turn 18, yada yada, and you'll turn into this buxom young lad, right? And that's fine. And then if they don't feel that way, you'll take off the hormone blockers, and they just develop naturally. Done and done.
well, the thing is with hormone blockers and all and the hormones itself, for some of them are not completely reversible. Like I think Lupron itself, as in the documentary with Matt Walsh. I know you don't like Matt Walsh, which is fine.
Oh,
He's kind of annoying sometimes. I don't agree with everything
he's
he says.
more than a little annoying, but go on.
But anyway, Lupron, the drug itself, is used to chemically castrate prisoners. And if you look it up, it has been. So I'm saying some of these things aren't reversible, or with enough years, they might change your mind. And now, like, well, you know, your
Well,
system, your body has been changed irreversibly.
the dose makes the poison, and that we learned that in biology.
No, of course.
Just
I'm not
because you
saying. I'm not
use
saying
Lupron to castrate, or what did you say?
they
Sterilize.
use it to chemically castrate. I think rapists and child predators in some
Right. You could use a knife to
states
the
and
same
countries.
effect, but you can also still argue that the knife should maybe be used for cutting your meat, right?
No, and I agree. But again, you were saying the dose makes the poison, but at the same time, over years, it will eventually have lasting effects that can't be reversed. Am I wrong? Like just because you smoke one cigarette, the one cigarette's not going to be harmful immediately, but you smoke thousands upon thousands of cigarettes, you're eventually going to develop cancer. Is that not wrong?
Say that one more time. Sorry.
Sorry about that. I don't know if you understand. Just because you smoke one cigarette, you're not going to get cancer for one cigarette, right? Am I correct in that statement? But if you smoke,
No, probably not. I mean, is it possible?
yeah,
But sure. But
right,
you
but
can also
yeah,
be
but
struck
if
by
you smoke
lightning.
thousands upon thousands of cigarettes for years, you're probably going to develop cancer. I mean, is that a false statement?
Oh no. I mean, well, you probably. I'm not sure what the exact statistics are, but
No,
your
no, but
odds go way
you're
up. Like you're
yeah, way
more
up. I'm saying.
probable to get cancer than almost any other person in the population.
Exactly. So if you use Lupron for years, eventually it's going to have adverse effects on your body. Anything, even good things, bad things. You eat enough apple seeds accidentally, consuming arsenic, and it may or may not have harmful
Well,
effects. You
right, but
take too
if
much.
that's the take you're going with, I could just as easily say we got to get all the meds off. Like meds are bad. Medicine's bad.
No, and I'm not saying I'm saying that all medicine is bad, but Lupron, like I said, we can't say that the hormones were not irreversible after a while, because that was your argument that hormones can be reversed. Like
Mhm.
they can to a certain extent, but after
No,
years.
sorry. Just to be clear, I said hormone blockers can be reversed.
Oh, hormone blockers, got you.
Yeah.
Hormone blockers, and again, I don't know too much about hormone blockers, so I will see that point. I don't know much about hormone. I don't know what the lasting effects on.
What I will tell you is that the two most lasting effects, it can affect bone density very slightly, and it can affect height very slightly. Um,
Hmm.
every medication that you take has potential side effects, and doctors always weigh those side effects against the benefits. And in this case, I would say the benefits of taking hormone blockers when you're not sure if you want to transition or not or if you're sure that you want to transition, but like this is just a procedure that you go through, the benefits are far, far, far greater than the drawbacks. And we can see this through all kinds of data. There's very, very, very low detransition rates of people who have been on hormone blockers and continue with with like their hormones. And people who have come off of hormone blockers generally have very low complaints. You know, they gave it a shot. They said, no, I don't like being trans. I want to go back to being cis. They came off the hormone blockers. They're like maybe an inch shorter. Bone density might be a little bit less, whatever. It is what it is.
Okay, like I said, if that is like I said, again, I don't know too much about hormone blockers. I'm not gonna lie and tell you, oh,
That's
I know.
fair.
Like no,
That's all
and
right.
you know,
I
I'll
I
see
would
the point.
advise
Like,
looking into it.
yeah,
You'll find a lot of fake news on it. I know that
no, and
leftists aren't supposed to
there's
say that, but you know, the fake.
uh,
But you can tell where the fake news is coming from because it's not from official scientific sources. All of the scientific sources, the medicine doctors, the like Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic, the Boston Children's Hospital is a very popular one right now.
mhm.
All these different research articles, like all of them, they all support the efficacy of hormone blockers in trans kids, like all of them.
But you said the Boston. What was that Boston one?
The Boston
What about?
Children's Hospital, the one that Matt Walsh is currently in the process of trying to,
Yeah,
you know,
there was some weird videos about that because I haven't had not too familiar with the case, but I remember trying to remember something again. Again, I'm busy usually, can't watch everything. But I think
that's
one
okay.
of the doctors was advocating for bottom surgery for minors. Again, not trying to say if I remember correctly. Again, it's been a while since I watched a video. I've been busy. I'm not gonna
Yeah, so
fully say this.
the one you're referring to, I reviewed it. It is a and I will cede to you that it appears to the untrained eye to be pretty damning. What I will tell you is that I made a whole YouTube video about it. So for one
Mhm,
thing, she's calling about her 16-year-old trans son, right?
mhm.
The lives of TikTok girl, Raya Chacha, or whatever her name
Yeah,
is.
right, yeah, right.
Yeah,
Let's say call it Raya. I don't know how to pronounce her last name.
I
So.
forget.
Mhm,
Anyway, she called the hospital and talked to the general phone line, right? The person whose job it is to transfer the phone from one department to the next. And
yeah,
she asked if she can do that procedure, and the person said, "Yeah, we can set you up with that." And they took that as a positive indication that they will in fact perform bottom surgery on a 16-year-old, right? Now they
yeah,
got transferred to the medical department. The medical department said, "Okay, you're in the clear." Um, but what I'll tell you is that the process is not that simple. It's not like you just walk in and with a vagina and then walk out without one. You know, like there's a whole thing that you have to go through. There's papers, there's insurance, there's doctors that you have to talk to, therapy they have to do, wait lists, all this stuff. That's why you start the process when you're 16. That's why they said you're in the clear. We'll begin discussing this, and you can go back and listen to the tape. They didn't think that they were being like recorded, which sounds bad, but that means that they're not going to be very careful with their words. You know, they don't think that they're on the hook for like legally for any of this right now. They didn't think it'd be certainly not lead to bomb threats. So were they a little bit loose with their words? I think maybe, but ultimately, like we have no solid evidence that they're doing this. We just have hearsay and that one phone call. Oh, you went mute. He'll probably be back. He just went mute for a sec. Badgerner. You back?
oh, sorry about that. Yeah, my microphone died right when we are talking about. Uh, sorry, like my wife didn't charge the headphones. I apologize.
It is
Can you
all
hear me?
good.
Yeah, so mine just died, so I've been scrambling a charger. The last thing I heard, you were talking about her calling the customer service line and being the customer service rep was the one who said, "Yeah, we're okay. We can get a minor in." After that, sorry about that. I
It's
don't.
okay. So to finish my point, the customer service rep said, they transferred the line. They said, "Yeah, we'll get you set up." Matt Walsh and friend Chaya Rachik, I think, took that as confirmation, and then they also took the medical person talking to them as confirmation,
Mhm.
because I believe the exact words were, so Chaya was saying, can we get this set up?" And they asked how old is she, or how old is he, sorry. They
Mhm.
said he's 16, and they said, okay, they're in the clear, we'll go ahead and start getting it set up. And my point in the end was they start the process at 16 because there's insurance, there's papers to fill out, there's therapy to do, there's prep work, there's all this overhead. Like, you have to start the process at 16 if you want the surgery by the time you're 18. You have to get evaluated. You have to be put on a wait list. All of this different stuff that has to happen. So you get set up for it before you even turn 18, so that by the time you are 18, you can get the bottom surgery, right?
No, and I guess I agree with that point. Like,
Right.
again, not all surgery is going to be immediate. Just because you get cancer, they're not going to start chemo the next day. They're not going to cut out
Right.
a tumor right away. And I agree with them. And customer service reps are not the authority on what's going on, and I agree with that. I
Right.
mean, it still looks bad for the hospital, though. Pretty, that
You can
was.
say that. I would posit that it was an unprepared phone call. They didn't know that they were being recorded. They didn't know that this was going to be going on, like, national headlines or anything like that. These were people who were just working their jobs. They were probably in the middle of their workday. They're getting a standard phone call about a gender procedure. They work in the department. They're a little loose with their verbiage. I'm a nurse, dude. I get it. These people are tired. They're working. They're not thinking like, oh, I have to be super professional on this phone call. Like, no, that's not how that works. And maybe their verbiage slipped a little bit, but I can't fault them for that. Still there? I'll go. Okay, I guess we'll wait. Paco, just speak up when your mic's fixed, buddy. Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can. We are back.
All right. Yeah. Sorry about that. I'm using had to
No
jump
problem.
in Bluetooth different Bluetooth headphones. Pain in the ass.
We can still hear you.
Okay, that's perfect. You're coming out loud and clear. I can hear you. I don't know.
Yep, we're
Well,
good.
good. All right, let's continue on. So, yep. Again, you were saying, people working on their day, you know, uh, long day of work, and understandable. Like, especially if we're customer. I don't know if you work customer service or anyone in your live chat. You work long hours. You deal with the crazy people on a customer service line.
They
It's
were most
very.
likely talking to a nurse. And as a nurse myself, like, my job's not to take fucking phone calls. Like, that's one aspect of it. But
Mhm.
you know, the her language was a little bit off. Her she wasn't going to be super clear about like what she meant by like, okay, you're in the clear, because the assumption, by the way, is like, if you're 16 and you're trans and your parents are accepting of you being trans, the assumption there is that you already know the process. You already know it. So you don't have to sit there and explain, okay, well, just so you know, the surgery doesn't happen when they're 16, it happens when they're 18. Like, the assumption is that you're going to come in, get checked out, get put on a wait list. Like, they think you know that.
Okay, that's reasonable. That's reasonable. Again, I didn't know you were a nurse too. That helps them.
Yeah. I mean, it helps my case for sure. um, in some cases.
Yeah, you're not just talking at your mask. Okay, I deal with people. Assuming people that know the medical. Yeah, again, I don't know. So again, I don't work in the medical field.
Hmm.
I don't know how the process goes. I'm definitely a layman in anything
You're
concerning
fine.
the medical.
I mean, most people who weigh in on this stuff are not in the
Mhm.
medical field, unfortunately. Matt Walsh, certainly the least among them. Like, he he hasn't probably opened a medical textbook in his life. He probably pulls everything he knows from the goddamn Bible, if I had to guess. But I'm not gonna sit here and dunk on Matt Walsh like I do every stream. What I'll tell you though is, you don't have to be a medical expert in order to get the gist of this stuff, or to trust medical experts, because at the end of the day, what they're trying to do is sow distrust in our science and in our medicine, and that's very dangerous. um, he's telling you to not don't believe your lying eyes when you look at the research, because all of the research, all of the massive um, amount, like, it's not massive, I should say, but all of the research that we have currently supports transitioning processes. It supports the process. right? Not every kid is going to go completely through with it. There will also be mistakes. And unfortunately, those mistakes will be scrutinized heavily. But they're so few and far between. They're so few and far between. It's like with any other medical treatment. And so I see this push for people being like, well, look, it's a scare. Like, well, look at all these trans kids coming out. It's the same thing as the left-handed thing. They're not afraid anymore. And so like I said, this all of this is just a ploy to get people to distrust trans people and to distrust science and medicine.
A quick question about data, all that.
Sure.
So bringing it back to, I don't, again, I'm pretty sure you've talked this before. I don't know if you have the 40% suicide rate with the trans community. If again, out of curiosity, would you know what's your how do you say your take on it? What's the reason why this happens?
That is a well-studied phenomenon, and the reason is because of social stigma. And not just social stigma, but also stigma from within the family. I talk about this sometimes. Trans and gay people are very unique minorities because they experience problems that racial minorities do not, and cultural minorities typically do not, and that's scrutiny within the family. It's hatred and bigotry from within the family because they are gay and because they're trans. You're not very often going to see a black child be ridiculed and kicked out by his father because he's black. That doesn't happen,
That's
but that does
that,
happen to trans and gay people, and that
that's a
leads
good.
to a lot of this self-harm and suicide that you see.
What would you say would be the only factor at all, or would there be again? I just know the some of the small stuff. I haven't read through it at all. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, yeah. So, is it the only factor? No, of course not. I think it's the driving factor because if you look at the families who end up accepting their trans children, their suicide rates go down to a 17th of what it was before. It's incredible. In fact, in some cases, it's even lower than like the average population. It's incredible.
Think because I think the average is 4 to 5% for the average person for
Yeah,
suicide rate.
I don't know the exact statistic, so I don't want to stress this point too
Oh
hard,
no,
but it goes down significantly, is the point.
no, and I guess it again. Let me try to log. I'm not watching. I should probably put the Twitch on because if you have any, can you post up just one with the saying the if you have a study? I'd just like to look at it for shits and giggles for my own personal. You know what I'm saying? Knowledge. You
Yeah,
have
of
a link.
course.
I'm trying to log Twitch thing. I don't have a
No,
Twitch.
you strike me as somebody who is very much trying to understand right now, and I do appreciate that. And I'm listening very closely to you. And if there's, I'm always open to the idea that I'm getting things wrong or that I've been wrong before, certainly in debates. So,
Yeah.
let me see. That's not a good one. I had one for a while.
No, no, Lisa, no rush. No rush.
Here we go. So this is a study by 3 people from 2016. It's just one study, granted, but it is a source nonetheless. So I'll go ahead and drop that in your DMs.
Yeah, and I'm trying to pull up the Twitch right now.
Yeah, and in the results, you'll see the suicide attempt rate among transgender persons ranges from 32. Here, I'll pull it up for chat. Ranges from 32% to 50% across the countries. Gender-based victimization, discrimination, bullying, violence, being rejected by the family, friends, and community, harassment by intimate partner, family members, police, and public, discrimination and ill treatment in healthcare system are the
Yeah,
major risk factors that influence the suicidal behavior among transgender persons.
yeah, I see it now. I pulled it up on. I pulled up the Twitch
Yep.
finally.
Yep.
Would you have one like Thailand is more accepting? Would there be a study in Thailand? That'd probably be one of the better countries I think for pulling data of a country that's more how do you say accepting of the trans community. That makes sense.
Thailand is?
Yeah, I mean, there's still some stigma, but comparatively to the West, there's a lot of famous trans people in Thailand. They're not seen as in a negative light as the states, if that makes sense.
Let's see. Thailand has one of the highest suicide rates in Southeast Asia, yet little is known about suicidality among lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, queer, intersex, and other gender and sexually diverse people living in the region who may experience elevated risk for suicide. We sought to identify the prevalence of lifetime suicidal attempts and ideation, blah, blah, blah. Among 1,290 LGBTQI plus participants, the median age was 27 years. The prevalence of suicide attempt and ideation was 16.8% and 50.7% respectively. So attempt was 16.8% and ideation was 50.7. So you're looking at what percent is that? It's like it's a significant drop from 40 for sure.
The 16%, yeah.
For 17 to to round up, just to be generous to you to
Yeah, 17 is compared to like the 40 to 50. But again, the 50, I guess ideation is better. It's better to ideate, I guess, than attempt it. Whereas other countries like the states is what 40%, I guess. The attempt.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
I guess in the
Much
I guess
better.
how do you say in the states it's probably what like maybe 40 to 50%. Where in Thailand, yeah, I guess 18 or 17%, I guess, is a lot better.
Yep. So it seems that 1/6 of the sample reported a suicide attempt, while a half reported or contemplating suicide. Both experiences of perceived and enacted sexual/gender discrimination or gender stigma were associated with lifetime suicide attempt and ideation. Multiple interventions are needed to decrease stigma and in turn suicide among LGBTQ plus people in Thailand, including anti-discrimination policies and support for mental health and well-being. So now I don't know anything about Thailand. So your claim was that it is far more accepted in Thailand. Is that correct?
Yes, compared to the states, especially because Thailand's had a history and the running joke of lady boys.
Okay, so I think that then the data supports what I claimed. You were looking at 40% versus 17.
Yeah, that's why I wanted it. That's why I was curious. Like, well,
no, it was a great question.
Yeah, and there's data to back that point up. And like I said, nice for you, brother.
Yeah, no, that was a great question, and I'm actually glad you brought it up because now I got a little extra something under my wing for the next time I debate somebody on this. You still there?
Yeah, I'm still there. I know the signals. I can hear you.
Okay. Well, was there any other questions? Anything else you wanted to go over? Maybe anything you're not clear on yet, or anything that
I think I'm fine for now. I guess we can, for shits and giggles, you want to talk about the whole religion thing. I'm out of curiosity if you don't think America. I just the proposal of America not being built. Again, an atheist. I'm not a Christian, nor do I believe in any God or religion. But the values itself, you don't believe that was American creation or anything like that.
Sorry, give me just a second. There was a raid. It looked like a shit raid. Okay,
No
the religion thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, that I think I mentioned that America was built on Protestant Christian values. Again, I didn't grow up with Protestant Christian values. I'm Mexican. I was with Catholic Christian values, but knowing and understanding the history of America, for the most part, it was Protestant Christian values. I want to know your reasoning why you think that's not true, or actually, yeah.
Well, I want to be clear with a couple of things. One, even if it were built on Judeo-Christian values, I don't necessarily think that we should take that as being the best way to go forward with our country. So in that sense, I don't really care that much. But for another thing, we weren't founded on necessarily Judeo-Christian values. We were founded on the separation of church and state. That was the entire project. That was the whole reason the Protestants left England to begin with. They were being persecuted there for being Protestant. So they left.
Oh, yes, they were being, but most of them were Protestant Christian. I know, I believe America. I love separation of church and state, but for the most part, a lot of the values, how do you say, the Protestant work ethic is one of the things that helped found America. I mean, I'm not supporting Protestantism, promoting Christianity, but the values they espouse is kind of what the country was built on.
I'll be honest, it's not a topic that I've studied thoroughly, but my understanding is that there were founding fathers who were also atheists, and they kind of were on board with the Protestants of the time. I don't know the extent to that. What I do know is that they were, like I said, they were pretty clear on the separation of church and state. I think that is fundamentally opposed to any kind of Christian theocracy, Christian nationalist movement that's going on right now, where their whole idea is they're touting the fact that the U.S. was founded on Judeo-Christian values. It was founded on Judeo-Christian values. Well, what's funny to me also is that they can't really pin down what they mean by that because we point out things in the Bible. We say, well, okay, well, you eat shrimp, dude. I'm like, well, not that thing. Well, they sold their daughters as slaves. Well, not that thing. Okay, I like. What do you mean by Judeo-Christian then? Because clearly nothing in your holy book is relevant to your to the founding of this country.
No, and I agree. I think what a lot of those guys usually mean, again, not pretending to talk for them or know what they're saying, but
Hmm.
the American Protestant values of like the settlers, because again, they're not all the settlers themselves didn't follow every teaching. If we did, we'd be more like a Muslim country. But there's certain base beliefs, like in China, even though they were communists for a long time and the atheists by the state, a lot of them still follow Confucian values, and it's very different as opposed to America, how Chinese people treat how strangers compared to Americans do. Like living in China, having experienced the culture itself, like uh, the Chinese are blown away by the Americans having good Samaritan laws. The proverb of the Good Samaritan, as opposed to like in China where they don't have that proverb of the Good Samaritan. Confucian values don't place any value on strangers, so you have people ignoring or letting people die in the street or having children run over and no one doing anything about it. If that makes sense.
I really don't know much about that. I know that I feel like that's more observatory than anything. I would have to see some statistics on that. I don't know the exact situation as far as that goes. My
Oh, no problem.
my guess
Yeah.
is that people in China typically are in worse straits anyway. So stopping to help somebody like that is like not in the cards. Like I'll give you an example. In the US this happens all the time. In fact, I'm guilty of it. You see a car like crashed on the road. How many people are going to stop and help?
Very few, but
Mhm. I
in
watched.
China, though, it's another extreme where they're watching a child get run over by multiple cars, and that's the norm.
I really can't speak to that, I'll be honest. I
Oh,
have no clue what the situation is over there.
it's very different, like I said, and it's not just how do you say money wise. Again, living in Mexico for a lot of years as well, coming to States. Mexico, they'll help someone out. Even again, it's a poor country. Yeah, there's a lot of horrible stuff that happens, but there's still people that are not going to let a kid get run over. As opposed when I went to China, yeah, it's like, well, they're, oh, you can't get involved. You might get in trouble. You might be blamed for helping the child out, and that's one of the things. And I guess a lot of people in the chat are going, "Why are we talking about China?" Well, this is a religion thing about Confucian beliefs, and they're really harp on like the people you know are important, people you don't know are irrelevant. If that makes sense.
Yeah, but is that a religion thing or is that like a cultural thing? Like I feel like that's a result of like Chinese, like the way that their government's structured, the way that they're kind of what is it? State capitalist country. Their whole idea is kind of the I'm trying to be careful about how I word this. Um, the individual doesn't matter, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
no, of
all
course.
about like, are you helping like the system? I think.
No, and you're not wrong because Confucianism itself, some people say it's a religion, not really a religion at all. But China has always, for its history, been very collectivist. So with the Confucianism and collectivism, they kind of, for them, communism or these big society things is kind of they went right forward because they've already were in a way already pre-exposed to it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. It's something I'd have to look more into, to be honest with you. I can't really speak to it. But
Oh,
like, I don't think that like having a country that's founded off of like atheist principles would be bad. Now, I don't have any data to support this, but you know, you're atheist, right?
yeah.
Right, but and I'm also atheist, so like I'm trying to figure out like what like we still have beliefs, we still have values and morals and such. Like what would be wrong with founding a country on our system of beliefs?
And that's the thing, brother. Like, where our foundation of beliefs, where they come from? Like, I guess me and you, I don't mean to talk for your life, but I'm safe to assume that you grew up in a Western culture, right?
Yeah, I'm in the U.S. I live in Ohio. I grew up Catholic.
Yeah, same here. I grew up Catholic as well.
There you go.
There you go. But we both grew up with these things, and the beliefs of our parents, grandparents, the society we lived in, kind of more or less did kind of shape our morals or values. Would I be wrong to say that?
I think it would. You know, I'm atheist, and so I'm going to raise my kids to be. Well, actually, I was about to say I'm going to raise them to be atheists, but that's not true. I want to raise my kids to be free thinking. So if that means that they're atheists, that's great. If they find a religion that really sticks with them, I mean, for a while, my girlfriend was really into the moon and worshiping the moon. So, you know, I'm not going to diss that. You know, people should be free to self determine that stuff, and I don't think that. I think that there is a general drive in most people, not all people, but in most people, to help others and to be a contributing member of society and to be productive. You know, people who people who sit around and like self-serve all day don't really have happy lives. People find happiness and fulfillment in the presence of others and in the company of others and when they help others and when they contribute. And I don't think that you have to ascribe that to a religion. I don't. I just think that there's a natural tendency to that for most people.
No, and I agree. Like I said, my wife's atheist too. She came from China. So I have a very big knowledge in China itself. And, I mean, lived there. Yeah, and like I said, I don't want to push a religion or atheism on them to find their own path. Like you
Yeah.
said, their beliefs. I mean, I've had friends that are how do you say Taoists, Buddhists, Shintoists, Christian, Muslim, non-believers, all
Mm-hmm.
kinds of crazy Christianity, pagans,
Mm-hmm.
really Thor. They love that. Yeah,
Oh,
nothing
there you
wrong with
go.
that, brother.
Listen, I'll be honest. The paganism stuff is cool as shit. Okay, I'm sorry, they got it right. Our Christianity is so fucking boring, man. It's so boring. Like we only got one God, and what he's supposed to like be all powerful, but then like on top of that, like he just fucking floods the earth because the people that he created didn't serve him well enough. I'm like, what was the free will for then? You know, none of it makes any sense. In fact, in the
No, you're
pagan
not.
religion, he was the bad guy. Just FYI.
No, you're not gonna get any. You're not getting any argument from me.
No, no, no. I know that. I'm just spitballing.
Yeah. No, but yeah, that party for the winter solstice was dank from my buddy. He threw it, and I missed it. And I'm kind of still bummed out about that.
That sounds sick, dude. I would love to go to a solstice.
Apparently, they burn an effigy, like a goat effigy, and get really drunk on meat. And like that actually sounded like a lit time.
Hell yeah.
I,
I will say one good thing that religion did bring us that I can't refute is good fucking holidays. Okay.
oh,
Depending on the
I thought,
religion, people know how to goddamn party. Okay. Like, you cannot take that from them.
oh no, you're right. Like hell, everyone loves Christian. Even Japanese people love Christmas. They love the shit out of some Christmas. And I love Christmas. It's fun. It's fun.
Hell yeah, man. Christmas is awesome.
Yeah.
Easter kind of sucks, but you know, that's neither here nor there.
Depends. Like I think. Well, you're right, Irish Catholic. What do the Irish do for Easter? Do you guys get fucking do a cookout and get drunk or what?
You say Irish?
Yeah, or I don't know. So you said you were Catholic. I was just assuming again, making a.
No, no, I'm German Catholic.
Oh,
So I
what
mean,
do
we
you
still get drunk, like it's the same shit, but you know, more I guess more German theme. Everything's a little bit more sour, I guess. You got sauerkraut and I don't know. I feel like there's not a huge difference between Irish culture and German, right?
get? I mean, you should go to a Mexican Easter party. It's a barbecue and a lot of drinking.
Dude, if there's one culture who knows how to party, that's the fucking Mexicans, dude. They throw some sick parties.
Yeah,
I love the aesthetics of Day of the Dead. It's so cool.
yeah. Oh, that's fun.
Oh, it's so
A lot
cool.
of and actual Mexico, like Day of the Dead in the States is kind of trash compared to what you do in
No,
Mexico.
I think I do think that America has like a unique party culture. I think that grilling is I don't know if it's uniquely American, but I like grill outs. I like the aesthetic of it. I like the smoky smell. It's nice.
Cinco de Mayo is better than Mexico. Like in Mexico, no one gives a fuck about Cinco de Mayo, but in
In
the
Mexico,
States,
nobody gives a fuck, really?
really only the only people who gave a fuck about Cinco de Mayo is people in Puebla.
I had no clue.
Yeah, no one gives a shit about Cinco de Mayo in Mexico. But when you come to the States, fucking hey, tacos, tequila, and fucking beer.
How are you not stereotyping? Dude, I complimented Mexican people. Shut the fuck up. You sound like the people who wanted to get Speedy Gonzalez taken off the air and then did, and the Mexicans were like, dude, what the fuck? Give us Speedy Gonzalez back.
My
Rapido.
proposal.
Like they
As a
loved
modest
him.
level, I'm offended by what you told me.
It's
We have
just
thick parts.
stupid. Like shut up. Anyway, um, I feel like we've kind of just gone out of a conversation now. But is there anything else you want to talk about?
I'm good, brother. I'm just chilling with tequila. I'm just like,
All right, cool, man. It's been about an hour, a little under an hour. So um, I think I'm good if you are.
I'm good, brother.
All right. Hey, I had a lovely conversation. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but I think it went well. And uh, I appreciate you coming on. I think we got some good content out of this. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it's a
And
good combo, bro.
I also want to stay. I hope you stick around the community. You seem like a chill guy, and I'd love to talk to you a little bit more, and maybe we can learn some things from each other.
Oh yeah, bro. Like Japanese American don't know how to make sushi. I know. Do you, bro? I mean, I've lived in Japan. I'm Mexican. I know how to make sushi. And I did karate. I just want to be
Ooh.
modest, bro.
So, can you repeat what you just? You said you're Mexican. You live in Japan.
I've lived in Japan for 5 years. I've lived in Asia a total of let's see, about 7 to 8 years.
Oh, okay, cool. All
I'm back
right.
in the States now. I've lived there, so I'm like laughing, like, yeah, I mean, as a Mexican, yeah, I know karate, I know how to make sushi. I've lived in Tokyo and Okinawa.
Oh well, I didn't offend you, did I?
No, no, no. That's why I'm laughing. Like, source
See,
feeding me.
modest proposals. The Mexican was not offended. So fuck you. I'm just fooling around. All right.
I know. I'm gonna ask multiple. Can you even speak Japanese? Nihongo shibaru ne.
Oh, that's sick, dude. I've always wanted to learn Japanese. It's such a cool language.
It's a fun language. Partying in Japan is fun. Japanese people are very friendly. I've honestly, I've never had to lock my doors in 5 years of living there.
Really? That's
Yeah,
interesting.
never locked my car doors or my apartment door. Uh, I've had uh, I've had my neighbor. She was drunk and actually walked in my home in the middle of the night. And we laughed about it. It wasn't even like serious. We were just laughing about.
No, that's cute. I mean, like it's your neighbor. You've seen him before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
I'm not on the master. I lived in Ginawan for a long time in Asakusa, Tokyo.
Where is it? You lived?
I lived in Asakusa in the old part of Tokyo, and then
Oh,
Ginawan, which is
dang, you've lived a lot of places. That's awesome. I just live in Ohio.
Ohio. It's nice. I've been to Wright Pat Air Force Base for a month. I did not know
I don't think I've
you guys
been
had.
there. When I say Ohio, I mean like 5 places in Ohio. I
Oh,
need to
like
get
oh
out
yeah,
more.
but I liked it. It was nice. It was very green from what I
Yeah,
saw.
I mean it's a
Uh,
beautiful state. It's just, it's Ohio. It can be boring. There's not a whole lot
oh,
here.
Kung Master. Tokyo, Osaka, and Kyoto are very beautiful. I've never been to Sapporo. I hate the cold. I generally try to stay away from there.
Hmm. All right, man. Well, I think I'm gonna let you go, but thank you again for coming on. I had a fun time.
Yeah, no, it was good, bro. It was more friendly than actually us being combative. So you take it easy, brother. Stay polite.
Hey, you as well. I'll see you around.
See ya.
That was lovely. I really enjoyed that one.